Want some candy?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
I hear you looking for candy, man, bitch.
Give me some sugar, baby. Like scary movies.
Want some candy?
You don't have to.
You're gonna make that the intro.
Yeah, I'll make that. We're starting. We're rolling.
That's it.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Oobliette, for that amazing introduction to this episode of Monster Candy Podcast.
Here's an introduction. Welcome to Monster Candy Podcast. This is Oobliette, the star of the show. I am here with a couple of co-hosts that are all right at what they do. You've got Dominic, Gabby, who occasionally watches the movie we're supposed to, and when he does, it's in pieces. And we got Screamin E, who I think watched the whole movie in one sitting. I think he did it twice.
This is probably, I just watched it again the other day. Probably fifth time I've watched it.
Ooh.
I've watched this movie quite a bit.
How have you found the time?
I don't do shit. I hate the world. I work, go to the gym, play in the band, and watch horror movies. Literally my life. With these big old milk titties I got and this fat ass.
And a big old fat ass.
Fat ass. Take that. That's what I call ADHD.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. We're back on a regular
We're
schedule.
here.
Once again, Shotzi Blackheart can't join us because she's too busy being a goddamn champion. I occasionally Google my friends. I don't remember why I was Googling her. I remember. I was looking for her new addresses to put on the last episode because I tried to update all of our links to where to go. And I realized hers had changed because there's like WWE on her Twitter account or stuff. And I was looking her up and I realized one of the most common questions about Shotzi is, how much is Shotzi Blackheart worth? Which I think she wins the award as my first friend who has that as a Google question. Like that. But
she's priceless.
She's priceless. For everybody who's asking that question, here, significantly more than she was when she started our show. She's worth a lot more. But there is a couple different I will say this without going into detail of what they say she's worth. Wildly different numbers. Wildly different numbers. Like crazy different numbers. I'll say the top one. The top one is 5 million. And then it goes, wait, we don't have to talk about our co-host and friends' net worth, but it fascinates me that fuckers out there are like, how much is Shotzi Blackheart worth? It's like, there were so many numbers, guys. I don't think they're correct. I think there's a lot of presumption there. But she's even on sites of like, how much is a celebrity worth?
That'll happen.
Yeah. I mean, this pales in comparison to the one time I found out that my ex-wife was on bigtittedcelebrities.com or whatever it was called, and they talked about her boob size, and I was like, wow, there's a site for that. So
there's a site for everything.
There's a site for everything,
especially in regards to titties.
The internet is literally like Hellraiser. It's we have such sites to show you just have to look.
I mean, I'm on milk titties with ADHD.com, so go check that out.
You really should start that site.
You should actually, see if that domain's available.
And we'll just send it. We'll just send it to our page.
It could just be us. Yeah, it's fine.
Speaking of which, for a long time, monstercandypodcast.com has gone to a page on my site that had stopped updating itself. So anyone who is checking for our presence, I am currently working on a brand new website that will feature all 4 hosts and talk about what everybody's doing and it'll have a bunch of cool stuff. And when conventions start up again and we start doing cool stuff again, we will do it. We're gonna make merch, we're gonna make stuff, we'll do things. So if anyone has any ideas that's listening to the show, let me know what you would like to see, because I'm just gonna put it on the pile, because I'm also trying to think about all the new Tsunami Bomb stuff as things open up. So
I've got some ideas.
Getting in merch mode.
I have some ideas too, like E and Nicolas Cage buckle to buckle on a t-shirt.
That is,
I'm down. Wait,
amazing.
Speaking of that, did you see Francisco's picture he put up on the Facebook account?
Maybe.
Okay, it's under the Willie's Wonderland.
I'm going there. I'm going there as we speak, ladies and gentlemen. You are hearing me. Look
in real time.
In real time at our
time.
Facebook page, like I'm 80. Let's go.
Oh, see, yeah, it is. It's true. Nicolas Cage is somewhere looking at Dominic's search history.
What's happening? What did he put?
Like, fuck this episode.
I see a bunch of links. What am I looking for? I see a bunch of links to.
It's
YouTube.
Nick Cage holding your laptop.
Oh, son of a
in
bitch.
the comments.
Where? In what? In our club? In the club? In the
No.
On the regular
actual
page. Oh,
the regular
motherfucker.
page.
I knew it. I bet he did. He's holding the laptop. That would make sense, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And that's, ladies and gentlemen, why I have to put an explicit tag, because I have to talk about Nicolas Cage even when it's not a caged episode. It's not even a caged episode, and I'm talking about the son of a bitch. It's not son of a bitch. I actually like Nicolas Cage in a weird way. I just don't know.
I know, Willy's Wonderland, and then Mom and Dad really started making
Mom and Dad
love him.
We have to do that. Dom, you have to watch that.
We do. It was so surprising. I turned it on because I was like, this is gonna suck, and I'm tired. And then I stayed up way too late, and that made me laugh.
Wow.
And then I kind of wanted to hang out with Nicolas Cage.
I did it out of sheer boredom and torture for myself. I was like, this is probably going to be so terrible. I'm just going.
No, but I told you. Yeah, I remember it. And I was like, no, you're going to be surprised. You're going to be surprised.
Check it
but
out.
Yeah, that's for another time.
Yeah.
So
37.
But we're not talking about Nicolas Cage today. We're talking about the dark and the wicked.
But first,
that sounds like a Stephen King book.
Yeah.
But first,
horror news.
It's always nice to have her on the show, even just a little bit. Like,
I mean, small doses.
Yeah,
small doses with her is always good too.
Yeah, you don't have to eat all of her banana.
No,
some of it, and dry crackers that up. Okay, horror news. You're like, it's like whatever. Horror news is what we're talking about right now.
Horror news. MilkTitties.com.
Apparently, Screamin E is now the proud owner of MilkTittiesADHD.com. No, what do we have? Somebody's gonna buy that out from under you. What do we got? Has anybody got any horror news?
There's a lot of little
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. But apparently, I mean, all this shit you could just find out as usual on bloodydisgusting.com. But Adam Wingard, director. Is he the director? Yeah. Of VHS, You're Next, The Guest, Blair Witch, and Godzilla vs. King Kong is apparently in talks with Warner Brothers and Legendary for continuing the MonsterVerse, or potentially continuing the whole MonsterVerse thing. So
I know, it's exciting.
We'll
they left it. They left it off.
It's exciting
at like a place where it could end or it could keep going, and I was hoping they keep going.
That's what John Squires, our buddy over at Bloody Disgusting.
I like that guy.
Yeah.
I've seen some people attack him on Twitter, and they're full of shit. That guy is cool.
But yeah, that's what he was saying, that the ending kind of left it open for Kong. See, here's my problem with that. Maybe because I'm a huge King Kong fan and I am really into the original. Godzilla's one thing. he can have a bunch of movies. Like Kong, I think is just a standalone one movie kind of thing. Like I'll watch him, but I'm not super interested in seeing like King Kong Adventures. Like, what's he gonna do next? I like the story as it was in the original. Godzilla now, I could watch him wreck shit all day long, but the original movie or like the number of the ones in the 70s and 80s, even those got like a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, he's dead, but no, we're gonna give him a fucking pacemaker and bring him back to life. Like, I'm like, cool. Like, I like seeing it, but not super stoked on it.
Right. I just want to see monsters, man. And I liked this last one enough that, like, I feel like this guy gets it. And I can't wait to see. I think he's the right guy to go forward. I think they have a genuine franchise. Some movies are going to be stronger, some are weaker, but it's still fun and still monsters. And I don't think it affects any of the others that have come out. I think it's kind of its own. I think you have to just sort of accept it in its own little universe, and they're just cool enough. They're total B movies, man. They're awesome B movies with monsters in it, and they seem to be getting that. Like, we don't care, just give us. If you got to have humans in it, make it the bare minimum funny, and just move on. But I'm interested to see where they'd come out. I mean, I'd love to see like Planet X get involved and stuff. Like, that would be fun to really just go nuts. There's so much that you can mine from these old movies. I could do without Baby Godzilla, but I mean, there's still a lot of like fun things.
The one they were talking about was having Son of Godzilla was another one, which, I mean, anything is going to be better than the one in the 60s. So,
Sure.
I mean, you can only go up from there. But yeah, the thing with Godzilla is like, so he lives in the ocean, and the ocean is vast or whatever, so he could always disappear and then come back whenever there's trouble or whenever he needs to wreck shit.
Right.
Whereas like King Kong, I guess there's whole Hollow Earth deal, but
yeah, the Hollow Earth thing was fun. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, you're told, come on, go watch it. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Mortal Kombat. I haven't seen Mortal Kombat, and all I've heard is what a pile that is, which is really a bummer.
That's what I first started to hear, and then some people were like, "Oh my god, it's awesome!" And I'm like, "Is it though?"
The thing with that is it's exactly what you would expect it to be.
Yeah.
Look, none of them have ever been like quality content. They're just fun to watch.
I mean, I don't know.
I did have hopes that there would actually be like some acting chops and maybe they'd make it a serious thing, but with like how graphic all the fighting was and the ridiculous fatalities they recreated, it would have been weird if they would have gone more serious.
Right.
My problem with this movie is there's no fucking tournament in it.
Oh, there's no that's what it is. It's a tournament, right?
Like, so movie, I mean, so I don't think that this is necessarily a spoiler, but there's no tournament. The entire movie is setting up for a second movie and a whole like slew of movies, basically.
Right.
So there's like a little bit of backstory stuff, and there's tons of fighting, but there is no tournament.
You would think that you would want. Okay, whatever.
So it was weird. Like when the movie was ending, there's like one scene at the very end that I almost thought the movie was going to be like a half hour longer, and there was going to at least like end and set the second movie, like show the beginning of a tournament or something, and I wish they would have done that, even though it would have gotten you psyched and wanting to see the tournament. At least you would have like had that, like in some of those 80s action movies that kind of led into the next thing, like the Rocky thing, but this didn't.
Was it like a really long origin story for the characters?
No, I mean the origin part wasn't very long. It was basically like all the bad guys wanted to kill off all the good guys before a tournament would happen.
Yeah, I mean,
so then they kind of forced a tournament because there's fights, so they forced what could be a tournament, but it's not really a tournament. There's a bunch of one-on-one fights, but
that's interesting. That's a lot of confidence in that that franchise being able to stand up and move forward.
Yeah,
But
because that's literally all the movie is elite. Like it's just a setup.
well, it totally worked out because it has an alleged budget of about $55 million reportedly, and it looks like it has a domestic opening at 22.5 million and sits at 50.1 million internationally in the first weekend it was open. So it actually had a box office, so global total of 72.6 million in this time frame. That is a hit, and that means it's paid for itself in its first weekend and it's off and running. But you'd think they'd like, I don't know, like there's so many movies that are absurd but fun, like Big Trouble in Little China, like that have a kind of a cool story that like holds it all together, but it is ridiculous, but the acting is good and crazy and it's funny. And
so they didn't go as like cheesy and
Ridiculous as the 90s one.
No, but I mean and I think that's why people aren't liking it, because it's not silly enough to be that kind of like nostalgic ridiculousness. But I think it's definitely on par with those, just more current. But nobody was trying to act like, I don't feel like any of the actors were really trying to be serious. They were definitely embraced the kind of caricature of the characters and overdid it to a part where I thought it was fun. Like Kano's character made me laugh the whole fucking time.
Should have been.
I mean, I like potty humor and stupid shit, but like, someone with a mature movie palette isn't going to like this. But at the same time, why would somebody with that kind of palette watch a Mortal Kombat movie?
yeah, I mean, we talked about this last time when we were talking about our grading system. Like, I grade movies in the genre they are. I wouldn't watch Mortal Kombat with the expectation of a Francis Ford Coppola movie, like, or a Martin Scorsese movie.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't judge it against those because it'll lose. But
I mean, I was intrigued though. I thought they might go that kind of way with, how good it looked, but
it does. I mean, the trailer looks great, but then I started hearing I just kept seeing, I saw a bunch of people post like emojis of the pile of shit, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what people were expecting, but I mean,
the last and only connection. Oh, go Oops.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say the last and only connection really I have to Mortal Kombat, aside from like when the video game first came out, or like the arcade game. Mm-hmm. Aside from that was when I posted about this, is when I was a teenager, probably 14, 15, me and my old bass player would get his little brothers in a room because he had the soundtrack for the movie. So we would get them in, they're like 10, 9. Yeah. We just, hey, get in here. Nate, get in here. They'd come, okay, what? And we'd close the door and he'd hit play and we would just make them fight each other. We wouldn't let them stop. So that's abuse. My last memories.
That's abuse.
That is a good fucking time, is what it was. No,
it
was hilarious.
That's growing up with siblings.
No, it's true.
I was gonna say we all have siblings. We all know that.
But imagine that. You're like this.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid locked in this room, and all you hear is that music come on. Mortal Kombat, and then you got your older brother and his friend just like, oh, you guys got to fight to death.
I think it's pretty guaranteed this one's gonna have another one.
I would watch that Mortal Kombat a million times.
Speaking
that too.
Of sequels, Ben Whitley's The Meg sequel,
I saw that.
A movie that he loves, isn't filming till next year, but it is gonna film. Jason Statham is gonna be back as Jonas Taylor to fight the Meg or another Meg or
all of the Megs.
I assume it's another Meg. I bet it's gonna be more than one Meg. Probably.
I'm a big shark movie person, so I'm all for this.
Did you see the Meg?
I did.
And what did you think of it? Because we did an episode on it way back when.
So my very initial reaction was slightly disappointed. Just because the way the trailers went, I thought it was going to be like, I don't know. I think
way more over the top. It
yes. Yes, way more over the top, way more action. But then upon letting it settle and seeing it multiple other times, it has a real soft spot for me and I really enjoy it.
I love it.
E called it a classic black and white 1950s monster movie made in modern era, which I think is totally accurate, 100% accurate.
I agree. I think the trailers made it seem like it might be a little different. If I wouldn't have watched the trailers and I would have just watched the Meg without any, thing else, I would have initially loved it.
Yeah, a lot of people got fooled on the trailer and went in thinking it was going to be like Jaws, like this serious, it's going to be gory and this, oh my God. And they're like,
yeah,
fuck. I'm like, dude, if you're into like old fucking science fiction movies, horror movies.
I like that. I like at one point they were in the discussions to have Jason Statham like literally like stab his way out of the belly of Meg or something, like punch his way out. So I mean, it was they knew what kind of movie they were making and the decisions they were trying to make around it.
And all the actors knew as well. They completely knew, okay, this is how we're going to do it.
It made $500 million at the box office. Holy shit.
Right.
In 2018. 2018 is when we saw it. Damn. We went with some of the members of Arno Corps, as I recall, to see it.
No, it was just me and you.
No. What about? No, we were there with. Weren't we there with? I'm almost positive we were there with Holtzfeuer. At least Holtzfeuer was there.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
and I went to see a movie with us.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I'll ask. Anyway,
I think it was a picture because we posted a picture of where's Shotzi at in the theater.
Yeah, she wasn't. She definitely was.
That's what we were going to see. So yeah, it was a Dom and Screamin E date.
Oh.
They occasionally happen. We cross the streams.
Yeah.
You guys see the trailer for Conjuring 3?
I did not.
I didn't even know there was a Conjuring 3.
I mean, I saw it. Like I was like,
yeah, it's actually based off of another one based off of an Ed and Lorraine Warren case, but this is about someone who murders someone else, and it's the first person that actually uses the like devil made me do it thing.
Right. Yeah, well, we got to get on that the episodes of doing that whole.
We've never done Conjuring. Thing. We did
really?
The Nun.
I don't like them. Yeah.
So I didn't like any of them except for the first one, and to be totally honest, the first one scared me more than any movie I've ever seen in my life, and I don't know why.
Really?
When I watched it, I wasn't scared. I saw it in the theater. I mean, I was like kind of.
Or wait, no, we did the last new one, didn't we?
No, we just did the Nun.
Annabelle.
Annabelle. No, the Annabelle one. Annabelle Comes Home. I thought we talked about
that. Wasn't awful, but yeah, the first Conjuring in the movie theater, I was covering my eyes a little bit like I always do, but it didn't really scare me. But I, after seeing it, my sleep paralysis hadn't happened for years, and I started getting sleep paralysis almost every fucking night, and started having waking dreams, and it was really fucking weird. And I started sleepwalking and doing weird shit in my closet, and like somehow it fucked with my head.
What were you doing in the closet, you little nut butt?
I don't know, and I haven't watched it a second time because I don't want to. But I should, because I know it's going to be a thing. Like when I first watched the movie, I'm going to watch it the second time and be like, "This isn't scary at all."
I guess we know which one we're going to do then.
But if I hear, I'm done.
Did we do Annabelle Comes Home?
We did Annabelle Comes Home. Annabelle Comes Home as episode 38, and then
that one wasn't too bad, but all the other ones I was not in.
And I'm almost positive I thought we did the Nun because.
We did the Nun. Yeah.
Did the Nun. We're at this point in this podcast where it's hard to remember everything.
You haven't watched the Nun?
Really? That's a fun one.
You should check it out. Yeah.
No, I started that
was episode 23.
A few minutes of it on and off in pieces here and there, but I just didn't get through it. But Conjuring 2 was a big disappointment. But the first Conjuring,
I didn't mind it. I liked it. I liked the movie. I like the actors. was kind
And
of
I-
into it.
Dude, and then when I moved here to New York, I was so excited because Ed and Lorraine Warren's house is only a couple hours from me.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to make an appointment to see the museum, and that was like the week it got shut down.
What?
And I don't know why I was going to go because I'd probably never sleep again, but I really wanted to. Even my
You need
husband was
sleep.
like, "What the fuck are you doing? Why are you going to do this? You're going to convince yourself that you touched something and you're possessed," which is probably true.
True.
That's probably true.
Yeah, it's probably true.
I would like to see. I never saw that place. Yeah.
Well,
So
they got in trouble because it's in a regular subdivision, and people were showing up all the time and parking in front of other neighbors' houses, and it wasn't zoned commercial. And there keeps being rumors they're going to open the museum somewhere, which you'd think with all these movies they would have money to do that, but nope, just sits there.
interesting. Did you guys, speaking of trailers, did anybody see Zack Snyder's new one, Army of the Dead trailer?
I saw
I didn't-
literally like 10 seconds of it. And I was like, eh.
Yeah, no, I saw some people post about it that they were excited. I'm not into zombie movies.
Is that really it? You're just not kind of over zombie movies? I mean, there's been so many, so yeah, that I understand. I liked Zack's Dawn of the Dead as its own movie. I liked it a lot. So
I liked Dawn of the Dead too.
yeah.
I mean, there's some I like. It's weird when I actually see them, I enjoy them. It's just hard to actually get me to commit to paying attention.
watching it, right.
But once I do, I'm okay with it.
Makes sense.
From what
Same
I
with the
saw,
books,
the
I don't know
zombies
why.
were way too nimble. I'm like,
Well, I guess it's supposed to be evolved. I wonder if it takes place in the
Right.
same universe as his Dawn of the Dead, but they find out that part of the movie's reveal is that the zombies have evolved and have almost a society in of itself. They've existed long enough. They have this sort of unlife going on. So
basically like Z Nation.
probably. I mean, Z Nation definitely touched on that at times. I gotta watch that series again. I never finished it. Did it ever have a proper conclusion? You watched them all, didn't you?
I did. And I think it just kind of went off the rails. And then just
It seemed like it went off the rails. I mean, the last I saw, she was blonde, and it was weird, and
it got super like
it was
it
such a
went
good
off the
series.
rails.
It was such a good
It
series
was.
when it started.
It took a while
you
for me
guys-
to get into it.
Mhm.
But I
Have
did,
you guys
and I
read
liked
any
it.
of the Peter Klein's books?
Peter Klein books? I think I have. That sounds familiar.
Like the first one's X Heroes. Each other one starts with X. I've only read the first one. It's pretty cool. It's zombie apocalyptic takeover, but there's also superheroes. It's
Oh,
kind
right,
of
right. Yes.
in lines with like The Boys, but
Mhm.
with zombies. It's good. I'm about to start
Have
the
not.
second one. I've
Um,
had all the books for years, other than one, and randomly my brother had to drive the author to an event and was like, "Have you ever heard of Peter Klein's?" And I was like, "Actually, I have 3 of his books in in a series, and I haven't read any of them." And he's like, "Well, he's touring for the 4th book. Do you want one signed?" And I was like, "Sure." So I've had all these books
So Ex Purgatory, that was the
for a
one.
while, yeah. And I just finished X Heroes, and it was a lot of fun.
So X Heroes is superheroes versus zombie thing.
Not really verses, but you should, if you want a new book, check it out. Super easy read.
X Hero. Yeah, I'll check it out. I've heard of it. I've not read these. I'm trying to figure out what I have read of his, because I've read something. I know for sure. I recognize the author. I totally look through
He
his
did
books.
a Lovecraftian one. I think it's called Apartment 14, maybe, about all those people who live in an apartment that kind of find this like hole.
It's called 14. Yes.
Apartment 14, yeah.
14. I do know that. I think that's the one I've read. That
Yeah.
sounds
It was
really
cute. It was
familiar.
very like sitcom-y, but
Yeah.
But the characters were all zany. It was another one that was like, not a lot of deep content, but really fun to read.
The eerie adventures of the eerie adventures of lycanthrope Robinson Crusoe has me interested. I'm like, go on. Werewolf on an island? Let's talk.
No, me too. Me too. I almost ordered it the other day, but I was like, no, you have got to get through these 4 books first.
Yeah, you got to start.
I like-
You gotta...
I like collecting books and not reading them.
I read constantly, so I'm big on reading horror. So if anyone listening to the show ever has any horror recommendations as far as books go, let me know. I love it. It sounds like Oobliette will buy it and put it on her shelf and read it eventually. So you have at least 2 that will be some level of interested. He will wait till the movie comes out.
No, I only read when I'm on planes because reading makes me sleepy.
Reading's fundamental.
And it makes him not need to poop.
Yes. Keeps my mind off.
Wow, I didn't even remember that. Good reference. Good throwback.
Poop.
That's all I think about if he mentions flying is him with clenched ass.
You and me both. You and me both. Believe me.
Wow.
That's how I am
Talk
when
about
I'm in
your
a
night
car.
terrors. What's that?
I'm more like that in a car. In a plane, there's a fucking bathroom. In a car, it's like panic. Where's the next bathroom?
Yeah, no. If I'm awake and I'm in a car, like I'm fine. There's fucking iron stomach. I won't shit until I get to the destination of where we're going. In the plane though, when I'm sleeping, hey man, I don't know what the fuck.
Just gotta poop.
Well, you know, when it's time that we start talking about Screamin E's bowel movements, that we're finished with horror news.
Oh, wait. No, I actually got one more thing. If speaking of poop, no, but if people have Shudder, and I'm assuming most people do nowadays, In Search of Darkness Part 2 is currently streaming on Shudder.
Really?
And it's
I saw that.
awesome.
Is it good? Nice.
Yeah. I'd say not totally as good as the first one. But I mean, the first one was like right out the gate. It was super great. But this one is also super great. I just like the first one a little bit better. But yeah, another 4 hours or however many fucking hours it is. 80s awesomeness. So everyone should go check that out.
Nice. That is on Shudder now. Find it on Shudder now. All right. Well, cool. Let's talk about today's movie.
The Dark and the Wicked.
The Dark and the Wicked. This year's feel-good, heartwarming adventure of 2 siblings that bond over the coming death of their parents. Ride along with these 2 fun-loving siblings as they just watch their lives fall the fuck apart. Good Lord, this movie.
Oh my God.
They definitely capture, if you are looking for a movie to capture the feeling of despair and depression that you experience at the lowest points of your life, you found it. Look no further.
I told you to watch this movie a little while ago.
Huh?
Yeah, that's true. So they played
siblings before.
There was another woman that was supposed to be there was another woman that was cast, and due to a scheduling conflict at the last minute, she couldn't do it. And so the brother fought to get the actress that was in it to be the sister, because they had played siblings very briefly, but they both also had a theater background and both were terrified of horror. So he thought that combo would really work for this. And if you read the interviews with them, the crew and the set department, they weren't letting them see certain sets because they wanted them to be actually scared.
Right.
And they were.
They are great, and they definitely have chemistry. That was a good fight. I think one of the best parts about this movie is the quality of the acting, the characters that they played. I saw some complaints by people in reviews that said they felt like people didn't act realistically, but I felt like that actually
I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't feel like I never did I watch this and go, oh, that's stupid. Like, I just sort of went, these people are having a rough time anyway, and then now they're watching their parents fall apart, and then now they're discovering that there's something more to that.
Well, from the outside, of course, you could be like, I wouldn't stay in that house. I would leave or whatever else. But I think the people who are saying things like that aren't actually thinking about your father almost
dying dad in the bed.
Almost dead. And the fact that you would be leaving him with whatever the hell's going on. You know,
Right.
it's like they try to get this doctor in there to move him. They do all the things that anyone would do. And, you know, when you're in like a fight or flight mode, if you're in the fight side of that and like trying to protect someone, you're going to, you know, rationalize as much
Unless
as you
you hate
can to get through that situation.
Unless you hate your parents, you're not going to leave your dying dad or your mom to deal with
There
dying
seemed,
dad. You know what I mean?
there
But
was
I think
this.
she did a great job with that, you know.
I think both siblings
Was
played,
sleeping in bed with them. She was scared, but she, you know,
just doing everything she could. And
Right.
honestly, I felt like I've met both these people. Like I felt like I've met the sister, you know, lost her job, bummed, and then comes back trying to do the right thing, hold it together, just kind of falling apart anyway. The brother, just simple dude, doesn't really, you know, want to deal with stuff. He's there for his mom. He's really close to her. She was close to her dad. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know. I felt like those characters.
It
I
seemed
thought
like
that was the strength of the movie, was how realistic.
Yeah, it seemed like a realistic relationship in a family.
I saw another complaint that talked about how they're like, I don't know, this is all inconsistent. They don't bother to explain like why the demon kills the father slow but can rip apart everybody else, no problem. I was like, demons, dude. Demons.
Yeah.
Just keeping everybody there, and to be honest, the demon was probably already in the father. The demon was probably already in the father and just projecting out from there through the relationships he had.
Well, the thing is, you can't. I mean, I guess I could see their point, but it doesn't make the movie better that way.
Well, no.
Like just go with
and
it,
the whole
man.
thing is devils and demons are tricksters. They can do whatever the fuck they want. If they want this soul, that's the soul they want. Everyone else, they're gonna do whatever the fuck they want and just mess it up. You know?
Yeah. I mean, this guy, it was clearly just torturing everything around them.
But the thing is, they were waiting for his soul. They're waiting for it. The other people they were just killing. That doesn't necessarily mean they got their soul.
Right. Exactly.
You know?
No, they were wearing.
They were trying to get everyone away from him to let him wear down. I mean,
It seems like they wore the mother down too.
And on top of it, like, well, of course they wore the mother down, but like on top of it, if they would have explained that or had some sort of other storyline where you find out what the demon wants, that would be the most unrealistic bullshit ever. Like,
one of my favorite things.
If it's explained, what's fun about it?
Right.
One of my favorite things about the movie is it just jumped right into it. Like right into it. Right,
it doesn't explain.
Like,
it doesn't give you any.
When people
you don't need
call
to.
this movie a slow burn, it makes me irate.
No, it just gets right into it.
This term's been thrown around a lot, but I mean, the first time I was watching this, there were times I wanted it to slow down because I was like, okay.
Right.
A little freaked out. Like,
well, you know,
I don't need a scary scene every scene. Like,
right.
Something else for a second.
I didn't think of it as a slow burn. I thought that it definitely breathes. What's so good about some of their scenes, I mean, it's okay, beautiful cinematography, great acting. I thought the chemistry was really good. I thought the story was actually unfolded. It's a classic story, but they did it well. And I think that letting a moment breathe as you figure out what's going on, as the characters take in this moment, or the fear that comes from silence, or the awkwardness and the tension that comes from not knowing, like waiting, like that's not a slow burn. Like there's been some slow burns that I love. This is not one of them. This one kind of jumps in pretty fast.
This jumps in fast and continues to build. And you know, the farm they filmed at is the director's family's place he grew up on, so he knows every inch of it. And you can tell like this to me throws back to some of the like original horror movies that scared the shit out of you just with shadow play.
Yeah,
right. Oh, the foreshadowing was amazing in it,
dude.
The chopping, we all knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming.
Right.
And it didn't save you from it. When you saw it, you're just still like,
no.
Ooh.
And at the rate it went, you thought every time they showed it, you're like, oh, this is the time. This is time. And it was like, nope.
The goats were even an effective like tension thing with the way they moved and how they got them.
No, the sound of that, the alarm, you know, of something coming, and how loud that was compared to everything else, and just the tone of it. Like, even if you you're not a jumpy person, like that got you every time. It was like
I hate how people nowadays just want every fucking thing explained to them. Like if you can't understand this movie, then like I don't know what to tell you. There's demons. This demon's trying to get a soul. Literally the movie, and this family's dealing with it. Like there's not much to it. If you like, I think when things are too simple, people get confused and like, well, I mean, well, what about this or what about that?
Yeah, because they try to look into every little thing. Like I've seen a couple of things where people are trying to explain it, and they're like, so on this day, the mom's journal said this, and then the priest comes, and then that, and it's like, okay, you can try to get into the writer and the director's head as much as you fucking want, but like, it's just overkill with this movie. Like all the acting was brilliant, all the effects were incredibly like effective to me, and you know, when I watched it the second and third time, the subtlety and like the camera angles, the way the shadows would move, the way the figure would appear, like don't overthink it. Watch it and enjoy it, because it's really a beautiful film to watch.
I think there's some real depth here. You know, like they touch on more story that they don't explain, which I loved, like the ranch hand and what he sees, or the priest, the actual priest, and what the impact, so that this demon has obviously been affecting other people, and it delves into your memory and pulls out what it wants, you know, what it can use against you. And I'm just absolutely thought those touches, I mean, it's just a really good classic. There's nothing here you haven't seen before. There's nothing, but it's all so well done.
It's really tasteful.
When I watched it, probably, I don't know, months ago, and I was like, you know, sometimes the Shudder originals are hit or miss. Sometimes they're okay. Sometimes you're like, oh. I was like, you know, possession movie, whatever. All right, I'll check it out. I watched it. I was like, wow. Like, probably my favorite Shudder original movie, because it was so well done.
Same.
You know, I was like, God damn. Yeah. All right, Shudder.
I mean, don't get me wrong, that Critters series was one hell of a masterpiece.
But what you touched on, Dom, is like,
that was sarcasm.
This was nothing new. They had all the typical tropes that you'd have in like a possession, demon, devil movie, like the priest, but slight tweaks that you're like, oh.
Well, the tweaks and just the placement of them in the story, I thought was really fluid. And then to me, like, you can tell those two actors are theater actors. And I think for this application, it elevated the movie so much, because they really were able to show trauma, and it made you feel that too. I mean, she was just amazing, and he was really good at kind of trying to keep it together and acting indifferent, but like there was
skeptic
underlying emotion there that was still really true. And seeing kind of all the scenes with them apart and the things they were seeing that would, and a lot of times were implied they were waking dreams and maybe didn't really happen. It was great. I mean, I think they used all the really great psychological tricks to really scare people they're in all the classics in
the granddaughter scene
movie, and they didn't overdo it, and everyone overdoes it, and they were able to do like gratuitous violence without it seeming overdone, which is really really hard to do.
Right.
When the neighbor kills himself, and then days later, a couple of days later,
oh my god,
the granddaughter comes, and she's talking to, like, the part where she
smiles,
you know, she falls on the floor, and she's like walking, you know, she's like backing up, and then that granddaughter is like coming in, and I forget what she's saying to her, and then she's looking at her, and then all of a sudden she's right on the side of her. Like, I've seen it like I said, at least 5 times now, and every time I'm like, oh shit, there it is.
That
there's some good jumps in that. Even the shower part, towards the end with the mom out by the goats and the way she comes up. I mean, they really found a way to hit it in the right ways without it feeling overdone or played out, which is
Threw some
hard, especially
some-
for someone who's seen a lot of fucking horror movies.
threw some nods into The Shining.
Totally.
I felt like, especially with the day counting, and then the old mother when she's walking out all naked. I'm like,
Mhm.
Dude, I mean, the reactions. The thing that made me laugh is that one dude's knife, that little tiny like pocket knife that he was using
that he
for
kills
everything.
himself with.
Yeah, and then eventually kills. It was so crazy. And I mean,
that
just
scene
how
was great.
how
too.
tricksy like this thing is, and how it gets in your head, makes you see what it wants you to see. And it kept, I know everyone says slow burn. I kept wanting to be like, slow down, everyone, take a breath, wait, make sure that you see what you're seeing. Like, but oh yeah, there were so many moments that I thought were just like, I kept going, well done. But it also makes me realize how how different people who really expose themselves to a lot of horror might react to a creepy situation. Because I feel like the three of us, like if we were in a situation where we see something walking, I feel like get your cell. Oh shit, look at this. Like, oh my God, what is this? You know, whereas other people just go to pieces. And I think we all know people who would literally go to pieces.
Oh no, I would get a fucking gun. I would get every large knife I have. I don't fucking care if it's not living. I would still
I
try
will
to kill it
empty out
again.
all the
Yes.
bullets I got. I did think that when the
I would not get out my phone if my mom had fucking killed herself and then was showing up trying to hang out with my goats while her fucking dead titties were hanging out.
you know,
would
though
be
I did
shooting her.
I was surprised that the ranch hand Charlie didn't fire at the thing he saw. Like, 'cause
right.
you know, I was just like that whatever it was,
that's not your neighbor.
that must have really affected him, because he just went to pieces in front of it. But it was like, because that old guy, I felt like, I was like, oh, he's gonna shoot. Like, he's definitely gonna fire that gun. And then he didn't. But
going back to the chopping scene, it wasn't just a regular chop scene like we've seen in, Color Out of Space.
She keeps going.
Yeah, she just keeps mashing them, and
that was the best part. Like, she cuts her
Right?
fingers, and
I was
you're
like,
like, dude.
"Ugh."
And then she dices her fingers, and you're like,
right?
oh,
She just
fuck.
gets after it. I was like, fuck yes.
that was a great
Yeah.
beginning to, that was a great scene to set everything going. I mean, gory, but not too gory, spooky as hell. I was like, all right, respect.
And they're so good at making you think of it again, because you remember the one scene where the daughter's doing something in the sink and she moves like soap or something, and there's a little piece of blood. It was so effective, because I know for a fact, and I know you guys did too, the second you saw the blood, you thought about the chopping scene again, and it went back through your head.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, is there going to be a finger under there? She's going to lift the stopper up.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. I was like, ooh. But yeah.
The one thing that I wonder if it was on the director's mind is this whole thing almost feels like a metaphor for the guilt children could have for leaving their parents to get old, or die alone, or like whatever that the situation is.
I definitely think so. Well, and when I think it was a scene where the preacher was there, they allude that the father's soul was actually kind of up for sale because of the kids not being around.
Right. And that that a dying parent or something might think you don't love them because you're not around anymore, or not around as much.
Right.
Because what the whole thing was like a soul needs love to stay around, or like whatever. So I was like, and that's something everyone can relate to. You know what I mean? All their parents.
Yeah, I mean, and not
getting
even
up
just
there, and
I mean, I think it definitely parallels that, and even more simple, I think that it could also just show the grieving process and what it's like to lose someone, and the way that could affect your psyche and everything else.
That scene where her father finally dies, and then she just sobs. The two moments that I was like, wow, this actress is amazing, was her actually, to me, crying. But it was when she reacted to his taking the last breath, and then her on the phone with Michael when she realizes he's gone. And like I was just like, wow, even when she was off camera, she was like in it, fully committed. There was no like, I was like, yeah, that's what people sound like when they feel like they're alone, or that was grief. You know, the weird relief, the opening of grief in the middle of this horror movie. Like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me the theater actors. I thought they did spectacular. I don't know. Do you think that people have like? Do you think we've lost some? Do you think our expectations get skewed? We've skewed horror fans' expectations because of certain tropes that we've done over and over. That, I mean, I guess I don't want to say that people aren't appreciated. It seems like people really appreciate this movie. I've seen some criticisms, but not much.
It was
Most people
supposed
seem to
to
get it.
premiere at Tribeca,
Yeah, that's awesome.
and then COVID happened. I feel like if COVID hadn't happened, I mean, this movie already has a big cult following and people freaked out, but I feel like if it would have made the circuit, it would have really done a lot better.
Yeah.
The sheer acting alone, I mean, is crazy.
Yeah, it's I mean, honestly, like it fits in with so many other universes. Like if somebody had told me like this takes place in the Evil Dead universe, I'd be like, okay. Or this takes place in Stephen King universe. I'm like, okay. Like I could see it fits, and you think that count against it. But like I felt myself as I watched it, I just kept saying like, oh, respect, well done. This is I'm struggling for criticism
No, it's
because
hard because like some of the things, you know, even like the mom being naked and dead or whatever could definitely be in the Evil Dead universe, and some of it could be seen as a little like cheesy in it, but somehow they executed this whole thing so well that it's really just a fucking remarkable movie. And despite it being about something so depressing and dread, I really enjoy watching it, you know, continue. Like I said, I've seen it 3 times now, and I would watch it again, and I'm continually impressed by things I catch each time I watch it again.
yeah.
I think people, I don't know, man. Like I'm the wrong person to ask about something. Like I like simple things. I like tropes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe it's because
Same.
I know what I'm
If it's
getting.
not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, like I get it. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, like I don't want the wheel to be reinvented. You know, I always bring it back to like music and rock and roll. Like I could listen to Chuck Berry and Little Richard all the fucking time. It's not, you know what I mean? It's shit that's been done a million times. Or, you know, punk rock, we all can listen to the same punk rock bands we've been listening to for 30 years. And a lot of them haven't done much, you know, much different than what they did. And you're like, I know what I'm getting with this new record. But
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna
when
like
someone
it because
takes
that's what I
the
like.
classics and modernizes it while still not trying
Right.
to change the things that made the classic great, that's when I think you really succeed. And this one,
Yeah.
you know, they didn't, like you said, they didn't try to reinvent the wheel, and there were tons of tropes. There was, you know, things we had seen before, but
what they did,
had the fast movements, when they had the scary parts, when they had the shadow movements, when they had like, it was so well paced and building, and that it never seemed forced or silly.
They took
they
took your basic possession movie and did it the way they did it. So it's going to be slightly different, but it's still going to be the same type of movie. And when people try and do that, to me that works. So I like it, you know? I'm like, okay, because you're getting that feeling of that, whoever's making the movie. You're getting their personal feeling in it. So it changes it a little bit, even though it's still the same thing you've seen a million times. It's still a little bit different. And you can tell when people actually care about something. You know what I mean? They're not like, okay, let's just make another Fast and Furious. Like we know exactly what works, and we're going to do the exact same thing as the last 43 Fast and Furious movies we did.
Right.
Like,
No, I mean this movie, I feel like could stand its ground with movies that started a lot of that stuff, like
Mhm.
movies like
Right.
The Exorcist and The Omen.
Mhm.
Like I feel like this movie even did some of those things better.
It seemed like it was made by real fans of those old movies.
Yes, I mean even the design. If you guys notice the graphic design, I mean the posters look like
Oh yeah.
old Stephen King novels
Right.
from the
When I
like
saw the
early
poster, I was
80s.
like, I'm gonna watch this movie.
The font they use is a Arca Majora. I love the internet for this kind of stuff. Like I can actually find out the
The
fonts because I've
design
seen
stuff,
it
yeah.
before. And it's just a classic like book style font, sans serif font, based font, which nobody gives a shit unless you're a graphic designer listening. But it's just a really great thing to use for this kind of it. Everything about how they approach this talks about what era of horror they're pulling from and trying to invoke. She even the tagline, she told you not to come. I mean, like the whole
Right.
bit of it, like it's just so clearly intended. There's been a few great horror movie tributes that do an old style just really well. I'm trying to remember one that I particularly love that I own that made me think like this, where they created the whole movie was an utter tribute to the 1980s. Like from every prop, every clothing item was all from the 1980s. It's right on the tip of my tongue what that movie is. I'll remember.
Well, I
I'll
mean,
probably remember in a minute. It's when the
Right.
girl in the 80s takes the babysitting job and it turns out to be an older lady
The
upstairs.
babysitter.
No, it's like the
Oh, no.
devil. Sorry, that's in my tongue. It'll come to
The
me.
Devil's Candy.
No, that's no.
Shit.
That's what I call this
I
fat
know what
ass.
you're talking about. and I
You know,
can't
it's
think
all
of
in
it.
80s style, and it's on the
Yeah.
tip of my tongue. I own it. I own the movie.
Well, even like we were saying with the Meg, like they weren't trying to recreate verbatim an old movie, but they were like, okay, these cool old science fiction movies are done like this, so let's do our version of it. And then it turns out to be great because you're not trying to reproduce something exactly. You know what I mean?
House of the Devil. That's what I'm talking about. Sorry, E. I got it. I apologize. Just to finish my thought, it's The House of the Devil that came out in 2009. That was a movie that I saw that felt like I have the same feeling and respect from. When I watched that movie, I was like, dude, these people, the people behind this set out to do something creative and different. It's not anything new, but it's so well done. This movie stands up with the classics it's trying to stand next to. And I think this movie does the same thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just so excited.
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that. I think you mentioned that to me. You're like, dude, you should check this out. I don't think I ever saw it.
Yeah, in 2009, you watch it and it looks like it was made in 1983, and it's on purpose.
The cover of it is like a burning house, right?
Yeah, the House of the Devil.
It's got just like red, black, yellow, no other colors. It's very much like this one, and just the simplicity.
Well, with us being all musicians, we know like when a band goes in to record and they're like, okay, we want it to sound like this or like that or whatever, you know, this era. So they do all the things, but it comes off as super like pretentious and like, okay, so you're trying really hard to sound like this band, you know what I mean? Or this person or whatever. And then you have another person that's like, or another band that's truly into that shit. It's like, I just love that sound, and they do it, but it seems, I don't know, it seems real. It seems more real.
Effortlessly.
Natural, you know? Right. You know, they're like, oh, this is how it's done. And then, you know, so this movie reminds me of that. It's like, yeah, you guys are fans and you did it right.
It's funny about that.
And I like his other movies too.
Yeah. It's really funny though. Whose other movies? This director.
He did Strangers.
I like that movie.
In the sequel, which I thought were getting there. Like I liked them both, and I thought that he did a good job, but I was always curious to see what he would do after.
Yeah, I would say this is definitely the peak. I mean, The Strangers is fun.
Yeah.
No, he did the monster too. Okay. So it was the producer. Yeah, interesting. Interesting. He did the monster. He directed it. I saw that. It's interesting. Yeah, he's good. He's getting it. I think he's way more there now. Like, yeah, I think you're right. You definitely see a growth. Yeah, man. Like, it's funny. I was saying, E, it was funny that you say that, the musician thing. Like, Oobliette and I have that conversation a lot about certain bands that we know, where certain ones just nail a sound effortlessly, and is nothing new in it, but it's just great songs, great writing, just well done start to finish. And you can admire the songwriting of this genre, even though it's not anything you haven't heard, but it's just well done. And then other people, they'll just be chasing it, and it's so, they just struggle to understand what a chorus is and struggle to really make a hook, and they're just like kind of going through the motions, and you just kind of want to be like, oh, I'm not there. And this movie is definitely the latter.
And some people try to fit in the box of what they love so much, and I think that
Right.
is one of those problems. If you go in being like, this is what I want to do, but this is this box, I'm going to try to recreate what someone else did, it's never going to work. Like, you have got to be inspired and adapt it to yourself.
Yeah.
What you said is perfect. It's natural. Some people, like, they don't hold back themselves, like having themselves have input in that style. You know what I mean? So they're, oh yeah, a little piece of me. Oh, yeah, this isn't exactly like it was in this movie or back in the day in this style of music. So it's a little bit updated. Make it your own. But yeah, but you could obviously tell you love that, or you're super influenced by that style, but it's natural you doing it, so it works. So you're like, oh shit, yeah, that sounds like something that was, I noticed it a lot with garage bands that want to do like the whole 60s
lo-fi
garage,
stuff.
like we want to sound like the Sonics, you know what I mean?
There's
and
a lot of those.
Really try to like really, really, really try to be the Sonics. Whereas you listen to other bands like Nick Curran in the Lowlifes. Nick Curran in general is a perfect example. Nick Curran in the Lowlifes was, right? Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
He was my buddy in Austin.
Right?
Oh, really?
Oh. Nicky, I would talk to his mom every so often on Facebook, because I was like, fuck, the Murder Men and the Lowlifes should have played together. And the last time he was in San Francisco was like 2010, and I didn't even know. So, yeah. But he again, really perfect cool example. Like, he loved that music. You could tell it wasn't pretentious. It wasn't fake, right? You know what I mean? That was him. So when he did the Lowlifes, and it's like, holy shit! You hear me? Like, is that fucking Little Richard, or is that is that the Sonics? That wasn't him. Yeah. That's just how he made music. So it was super fucking natural, and it transfers into all mediums in art. You know what I mean? It's movies too, and this is a perfect example of that, at least.
Yeah, it's an authenticity that some things lack. That I think that's one of the number one things that get me to not like a band is I have to be able to look at your show, at your songs, at your album, and in this case, since we're talking movies, your movie, and believe that you believe in it. That, like, because if you don't, I'm not. It's like I can spot a band that is running through the motions from a mile away, and it's surprising how many of them are. But I think there's just that thing that separates it from. I don't think this tried to be anything other than the best movie it could make about a demon tearing apart a family. And the farmhouse being a location, that takes total sense that this was his family farmhouse, this time capsule place. He realized, because it is written as if that it's such a thing to say, but like the ranch was such a character.
Yeah.
I mean, it was as much as any movie has used a scene, a location as a character, this was. And they didn't try to. At first, I thought they were.
He really knew the space.
Yeah, he did.
Right.
And I mean, I bet that phone, that 80s, late 80s, early 90s phone that was on the wall, I bet that is the phone that's on the wall in that place. Like, I bet, like, that's just what is there.
And it also speaks to something me and you talked about, Dom, on the episode of Dr. Sleep.
Nice.
Was how the best type of movies, at least the horror movies and stuff like that, are ones that are confined and make you feel claustrophobic.
Yeah.
They're secluded. You know, it's not in the, because, you know, the modern movies, it's like, oh, there's internet and a zillion people around and everything. That's like not as scary. Yeah. You know what I mean? But when you're alone, secluded from society, you know, and just stuck in this one place where everything's at, like, all this shit is going down. And it's like, you can't get away. Makes it even more impactful when you do get away, like the brother did, and goes back home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
but then even in that
part
modern,
too, when she's like freaking out saying you left me, it was like, God, the acting was so good.
Yeah. That part was super like, oh, because
I'm trying to find a fault with this, but I'm having a hard time.
We could all like relate to how shitty that would be, like dealing with that situation.
Oh no, my heart dropped. I was just like, fuck.
Brother or sister like bounces in the middle of the night, your sibling is gone, and you're like, hey, where you at? Like, what the fuck? And they're like, oh, I had to get out of there. You're on your own.
I mean,
even thinking about that just gave me the chills.
Right?
And admittedly, I watched this the first time. I live on a property out in
you have like a farm.
in a wooded area. Yeah. And it was a super windy night, and I have all these wind chimes outside the window where my TV is. Oh my
God, you could totally film a horror film at your place.
And all your goats.
Actually, no, someone's scouting it soon for an independent horror film. But anyways, I started playing my Nintendo Switch and kind of like watching it the first time, like with one eye, because I freaked myself out enough that I was like, I can't just watch this in the dark.
Well, I mean, the right best part about that too, like the best part about that scene is it's not only that she's mad, like, oh, you're leaving me to deal with all this shit. Like in a normal situation, like, oh, I gotta take care of dad and mom just died. Like, you're leaving me with all this fucking responsibility. But like in some supernatural shit going down, and your siblings like deuces, and you're like, so you're fucking heartbroken, you're terrified.
And he's trying to act like he doesn't know about any of the supernatural shit, but you know he does.
Right. Right.
It was an interesting thing, just subtly put in there, that it was pretty obvious that she was closer to her dad and he was closer to the mom, but it's her that believes the mother's diary. And he's so dismissive because it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? And
yeah, but the people who are the most dismissive sometimes are the ones who believe it the most.
Yeah.
And that's why they're dismissive. Because he had plenty of weird shit happen, and some of the stuff that happened to him, I think, was the worst.
I'm trying to find something to criticize about this movie, but I don't know.
Not one thing pissed me off. And in almost every movie, there's at least one thing that happens that I'm like, why do they have to do that? Why would you do that? You know,
exactly.
Or why did you cast this person?
I mean, the priest
was great.
Yeah, I mean, the granddaughter that shows up. Yeah. I mean, the nurse is even great.
The nurse was great, and her demise, Jesus Christ.
I know. I you know,
that was the one scene to me that was a little bit out of place, maybe a little bit overacted, but it was still kind of like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting it. So
right.
I mean,
I didn't expect it either, so I kind of thought it was cool.
I thought she was a throwaway character, and then her discussion that she had with Michael was interesting, of how it was like sometimes things just take a hold of somebody and go after it. But there's love here. There's still hope, and like.
It was crazy that she lit the prayer candle, and then that's when.
I thought it was when she overheard the phone call. I got the impression. I mean, I saw the prayer candle.
Well,
That's
she did,
interesting.
but she had lit that prayer candle, which I thought was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like I thought it would get blown out and then something would happen.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't go with that
Right.
trope.
No, they didn't.
It was still burning.
I want to give you all something to warn you about and kind of speak to what its weaknesses are, but this is another one I'll stand by. I think everybody should watch it if they haven't watched it. I mean, usually people only listen to our episodes after they've seen it. I will say when we post, I'll be the first to say everyone needs, if you haven't watched it, you need to. This is worth it. This is, I'd put it next, like as far as if people go,
it's refreshing and it's good.
If people say
this one will stand the test of time.
I want a movie about demons. This would definitely be like, I'd be like The Exorcist, The Dark and the Wicked. Like, I feel like this will be like after I say The Exorcist, this will be the next movie I say. Does that make sense? Like,
well,
in terms of demon haunting, taking of Deborah.
I think
whatever.
I think it's far better than any of those like Emily Rose or those weird possession movies that, you know what I mean, that came out in the early, like mid 2000s, early 2000s or whatever.
The Taking of Deborah Logan. I would say that one too. I like that one.
Like any of that stuff. I don't like when I saw them, I'm like, because those were
the haunting
movies
in
that
Connecticut.
tried to be whatever movie preceded or switched it up too much and tried to be too different with certain things.
They either switched it up too much or they just tried too hard. I mean, you can tell when they're trying too hard.
Right.
And it just doesn't seem natural. So many of those movies were, I mean, they had the budget of a real movie, but they just read like a D movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas this has no budget and it's just, it's unfortunate it came out now because it deserves. I think it would have been embraced widely in theaters in a normal time, which I'm glad to hear that for the most part, despite the criticisms that I read, it does seem like everyone's embracing this film. It seems like it's getting the attention it deserves.
They should. I feel like this is another one of those films in the horror genre that can kind of bridge over to other audiences. I feel like it is a very scary movie, but I do think that people who like some other stuff should give it a chance. I don't know. I think it will invoke emotions they haven't felt for a while, and it's also fun to me in a weird way. But
I mean, this also does a good job of having a lot of angles in it, not just possession movie. You know, it like The Exorcist did. Like there was a lot of like just emotional shit that the mom was going through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with her relationships with the dad and then Reagan and then what the fuck's wrong with my kid? Like all these.
I think that's why a lot of the older horror movies are so great, because it just wasn't dependent on the horror,
the spooks and the shocks.
The spooks and the shocks. Yes. It's like this has plenty of jump scares, but to me, you know, having the trauma, having the worry, having the kind of what the fuck is going on, the unknown attaches itself to you because you put yourself in that position. When you watch these movies that are over the top, you don't, because you would never be in that position. And not that you would be in this one, but this is a lot more believable.
Right.
And you could see yourself there. You could see these things happening and trying to rationalize them and not knowing what's going on. And to me, that is far scarier than, you know, a neon green ghost and I don't know. Blood splattering everywhere.
Right.
Which I love that shit too. But as far as being scared, like this is a scary movie.
It's a scary movie. It's a great movie. And on that note, we should probably we're running kind of long. We should probably get to the ratings now, because I mean, I think we're just having a great discussion about this movie.
We're just having a love fest.
It's a rare love fest for a movie on Monster Candy Podcast. But How many undead zombie candy corns are we gonna give this movie, guys?
Possessed undead zombie candy corns.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Shotzi did not see it. She only saw half of it because she's been busy. So she
know the
does
feeling.
not get a score, right? But I would go with a solid 3.5 for me.
Mhm.
You possessed
3.5?
zombie candy.
Out of
Well-
5?
Out of 5.
Why 3.5?
Yeah. I really liked it, but again, on my scale, I do everything as a whole.
Right.
So it's
You've
like,
talked about that.
you know,
you rate everything against
yeah.
everything.
Right. In the
So
horror
you put this
realm.
the same as Willy's Wonderland?
No, I dropped that to a 3.
Mm.
Because I did like it, and those aren't bad. That's not a bad score. Like a 5 is super hard to come by for me. Like a 4, if you do a 4, you're like, in the top 10% of
I struggle. I
movies
get you.
like. So
See, I'm struggling to
Three and a
find
half.
anything wrong with this movie.
You're a hard judger.
And I want to be hard on 5s, but if I can't find anything wrong, I say this is, and I'm going to mention you in the same breath as The Exorcist. I think I'm giving it a 5 because I'm like,
Yep.
you're up there. I mean, 4.5 or 5. I mean, like, well, but then if I go like, okay, I'll give it a 4. I'm like, what am I dinging it because it was made in 2021 because it's new because there's other demon possession movies. Nah, man, this is great. Like, so I think I'm a 5. Oobliette, what about you?
Yeah, so all day I was actually kind of going back and forth between 4.5 and 5, and watched it again. And the same, I like it more every time I see it. I can't ding it on anything.
I want to.
Same. Yeah, I'm a jaded bitch. I love that stuff. Every time I watch it, I see new things I didn't see before, and the simplicity and incredible acting. And like Dom said, I would put this up there with The Exorcist, The Omen, Rosemary's Baby, Hounds of Baskerville, a lot of movies that just didn't even have to show you stuff that scared you, but when they did show you stuff scared you that much more. I think it's a 5. I think that this is a movie that will stand the test of time and will always be comparable with some of the greats. And I really, really want to see this director do more movies. I knew I wanted to see it. Even the branding was great. So I think that kind of solidifies the 5, like Dom said, the way the cover was. When I saw the cover of it, before I even read the synopsis, I knew it was a movie I wanted to see.
right.
And then when I started reading about it and everything else, and then just the feeling of watching it the first time, like it scared me, it attached me to the characters, made me want to keep watching it again and again.
If I was gonna grade it on your guys' scale, I mean it would be like a 4, because again,
Well, I mean, you don't have to feel bad with giving it 3.5. I like that you're hard on it.
Look,
And
you said 4
3.5.
was the top 10%. For me, this movie is probably, with the amount of horror movies I've seen, probably in the top 2%. I really liked it that much.
There's a lot more movies that I would watch before this, but it's so good. But if I was gonna rate it as if I were you two, as we're just looking, if we're just looking at like possession and demon, things like that, it'd be 4.5. I mean, it's really good. Again, it'd be The Exorcist.
I'm looking at all horror when I rate this.
I can't give it criticism. I don't know I don't know what I'd say to somebody who doesn't want to watch it. To them, I'd be like, people say, well, I don't like slow burns. I was like, well, it's not really a slow burn. It kind of gets going real fast.
It's not a fucking slow burn.
And it's
not
like
a slow burn. every 10 minutes of that movie, because the last time I watched it, I timed it. Just would look at my clock every time something crazy happened. And there's not 10 minutes of the movie where something crazy doesn't happen. Most of the time it's every 4 minutes. So that's not a fucking slow burn. If you call it a slow burn, people, listen to me now. I will find you.
But I mean, yeah, it's like the cinematography is great. The acting was great. I mean, I could try and ding it for not having really anything new, but at the same time, it's not even that it wasn't nothing new. There is new stuff in it. I liked it. I don't know where I can hate on it. And for people out there who have listened to this and don't know anything and are considering watching it, I feel like I'm just sitting there going like, if you don't like demon possession kind of movie, demon haunting movies as opposed to ghost haunting,
right,
which I do think is a difference in horror and in life. But I struggled to fail. I failed to find one that I would recommend more alongside, like you said, Oobliette, like right next to the classics.
Look, at the core of horror, genres aside, what you look for is something that scares you, something that keeps your interest, and something relatable, at least for me. Total 5.
5. Yeah, and 3.5 for E, who's like, but I mean, that's fine. I think that's a great review. That's a great score from E.
We can't all agree.
Yeah, no, I mean, no. So there you guys have it. There it is. I think one thing that we're all unanimous on, except for Shotzi, for obvious reasons, if she wasn't able to finish it due to timing, this is a must watch. Like, check it out. This is a movie I'm probably gonna own. Like, I would totally grab the Blu-ray for this and put it in my collection proudly. I think it's a great movie. I'll put it right next to The Exorcist. Well, probably not because it's a D, so we'll go with the other D movies. But D-E. They'll be close.
Well, I mean, we averaged it out to a 4.5. So
that's high.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
So
I mean,
there you have it.
There's not much you can really say bad about the movie, and people that are, I don't know what they're watching.
It sounds like he wants to raise his vote. It's like he's trying to rationalize why he gave it such a low number. It's weird.
No.
I feel it. I feel like it's definitely into a 4.
A 3.5. Maybe even like a 3.4, since you're really trying to get me to change it. But no, 3.5. Because like I said, there's probably 100 other movies I would watch before this that I like better.
I can see that in for you. Yeah, I get it. I think anybody who likes indie movies would like this. I think this is a good introduction to horror. If you have somebody who likes deep movies about emotional connections and real like life interactions, like this is a good like introduction to horror for your significant other that doesn't normally watch horror.
Usually not my shit, but this
one works.
This
one
works.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening to Monster Candy Podcast. As usual, we will be back next time we are now on a regular schedule. We have worked out a regular schedule to post, so there won't be so much time. I think we're going to be posting episodes for the most part every 2 weeks, unless something comes up with our schedules. And I think we'll have Shotzi back on the show really soon. So that'll be cool to have Oobliette and Shotzi together for the first time. So I know that'll happen eventually in the next few weeks. But for the first time. Thank you so much. And remember, she told you not to come. She told you not to
That's
come.
what she said, literally.
Mm-hmm. Big milk titties.
Fat old ass.
You've been listening to Monster Candy Podcast. If you want to find out more about the show, find us on the web at monstercandypodcast.com. We should have a brand new site there soon. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram just by searching Monster Candy Podcast. You can find us on Twitter by looking up Monster CNDYPC. Again, we couldn't get Monster Candy Podcast on Twitter, so that's the best we could do. If you want to know more about Shotzi Blackheart, check her out on Instagram at Shotzi Blackheart. You can also find her on Twitter at Shotzi WWE. That's SHOTZIWWE. Follow along on her adventures when she's not on the show. You can find out more about Screamin E and his band, the Memphis Murder Men, on their Facebook page. Just look up TMMM official page. You can find him on Instagram under Screamin E. That's Screamin' with no G, add an E. If you want to find out more about Oobliette Sparks and myself, you can find our band at tsunamibomb.net, or you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook just by looking up Tsunami Bomb. You can also find my artwork at dominicdavy.com, and you can follow my other podcast at 3gigspodcast.com, or you can find it just by searching 3 Gigs Podcast on this very platform. We hope to hear from you. Drop us a line and let us know what you'd like us to review in the future, what you'd like us to check out. I can promise at least half the cast would be willing to hear your suggestions, and the other half probably won't care, but I'll let you guess which is which. See you next time.
Suck my peanuts.